the Opelka Studios in Oklahoma City. You're watching the Press Row. I'm Jenny Carlson here with Barry Trammell. Time for 5 and 5. 5 topics, about a minute each for 5 minutes, Barry. Let's get right to it. Got to start with the SI investigation. Is this a bigger PR hit or bigger NCAA problem for Oklahoma State?
Oh, I think it's clearly a bigger PR hit. Through three installments, I don't see much with the NCAA. Virtually all the meaty stuff is from 2001 to 2007, outside the statute of limitations. The NCAA would have to make a pretty strong connection to go back into the before 2009. I don't see that happening. I think OSU is going to come out fine with the NCAA. Now, the PR hit, I think that worries Oklahoma State. Cowboys are actually turning the battleship. I think they're winning the PR battle to some degree with some of the revelations that have come out about the investigation by Sports Illustrated. But still, just the raw story is going to be read by a lot of families who have players that could be recruited by OSU. I think Mike Gundy and staff are going to have to do a lot of persuasive talking to some families over the next year or two. That's the biggest problem, I think, to come out of this series.
Yeah, I see this as a much bigger PR hit than NCAA problem as well. Now, the NCAA, who OSU has already invited onto campus, they've already said, we want you to come in and look at all of this. So the NCAA has already been notified and become involved with this. They may look at it and say, hey, there's a pattern of continued problems and we're going to dock you for it. But I just don't see it happening. They may, there's probably some infractions at any time, you start looking, you're probably going to find something that NCAA, recruiting or the NCAA rules manual is so big that it's hard to not have violations. But still, this is really a bigger PR hit. I got to ask on our live chat about recruiting. And there's no doubt. There's going to be a lot of negative recruiting when it comes to other programs, talking to recruits and saying, hey, you saw what they said about Oklahoma State. Negative recruiting happens everywhere for all situations. But this is something that's definitely going to have to take some time for Oklahoma State and their coaches to reconstruct. All right, Barry, what about this? Again, on the SI investigation, will any OSU heads roll after all of this is said and done?
I can think of just one that potentially could be out of a job, and that's Tubman, the drug counselor / team chaplain, life skills coordinator, whatever his title happens to be. It's changed in the last several months, but I thought the presence of the drug culture, I think SI tried to display that in installment 3, and to some degree, I think they did show that there is some sort of drug presence with the OSU football team, and that's apparent not necessarily from the testimony, but just from Mike Gundy's actions of the last 6-7 years when he's had to dismiss so many players. And, there's drugs on every college campus. Marijuana seems rampant with any sports team in America. I don't understand it, but it's so. Still, you've got to try to eradicate it. You can't let it run rampant. I think it may be time for OSU to get really serious about a drug prevention program with its football team. I think you might need to see a new head of that organization.
Well, and I think that's true. I think really of the first 3 installments we've seen, and the 4th installment we have yet to see, but it's about the Orange Pride, the program that has a lot of girls who are on campus involved with the recruiting process in terms of hostessing when players come onto campus. I don't think there'll be a connection there that would require anybody that's with the football program to lose a job. But you mentioned Joel Tubman, and it seems like to me that the thing that might get him isn't necessarily that he was unqualified to be the drug counselor, but SI revealed a couple of things on his bio and ultimately on his resume that were wrong, that he lied about. To me, Barry, he, saying that you have 2 master's degrees when you really have 1, saying that you got certain honors you didn't get. To me, those are the type of things that employers don't look very highly on. He might, if his only transgression was maybe not being a great drug counselor, maybe he'd keep his job. But to me, if your resume is wrong, that could cost you your job. All right, true, false, Barry. Hey, it's an OU football question. Trevor Knight's injury gave Bob Stoops an easy out.
I don't know if I'd term an easy out, but it sure made it easier on Bob Stoops. I think Saturday night he went home knowing, Blake Bell's going to start against Tulsa. On Sunday, he finds out that Trevor Knight's got the bruise, not going to play for a week or two. I think that made it easy on Bob to say, Blake's our guy for this game. He can tell Trevor Knight, listen, you got to sit out. We got to make the change. Rather than just saying you're benched, you've lost the job. So I think it made it easier politically for Bob Stoops just dealing with a benched quarterback. And we'll see if Trevor Knight can work his way back in. Right now, the job is Blake Bell's to lose.
Yeah, I say true. I think it did give Bob Stoops an easy out on this question. You know, Trevor Knight, he gets hurt late in the first half, early in the second half, and is really pretty ineffective even for that time he was in before Blake Bell takes over. So he, you know, went from not good to even worse as he's struggling with that injury. So, you know, it definitely just it looked like the guy was not what Oklahoma thought he was going to be. Now, maybe if he hadn't gotten hurt, you know, he gets into that groove that we saw him get into in that opener in the second half. He was much better in the second half throwing the ball than he was in the first in the opener. But with the injury, it never happened. And Bob Stoops, who I think, Barry, I think he was going to have something of a long leash with Trevor Knight. I don't think he was looking to pull him quickly. But after, you know, another struggle, I think this gave him a chance to do that without much repercussion. All right, Barry, our fun question of the week. Hey, what is your favorite SI story? I assume it's not these OSU football investigation stories.
No, I go back, I think this was sometimes late 80s, early 90s, I can't remember the date, but I read a wonderful story. And then several years later, the story got such legs, they made it into a movie. And of course, it's about radio, the man in South Carolina who sort of got adopted by a high school football team. Cuba Gooding Jr. Played the lead role in the movie, but Gary Smith did the story. He's the America's best sports writer, in my opinion. Writes these wonderful narratives about people you may not have ever heard of. Radio, my favorite SI story.
I've got another Gary Smith story for you. Basically, anything Gary Smith writes, I'm on board with. So, but the favorite story I ever read that he did was about a high school basketball coach, black man, who was a coach in Amish territory. Just a fascinating look at how he integrated into their lives, and in fact, you know, I still have it. It was just fantastic. So Gary Smith stuff. If they want to put one of his stories in SI every week, I'll definitely read it. All right, lastly, Barry, let's talk about the NFL. Who's the local player most likely to win a Super Bowl ring this season?
I think it's Wes Welker. I mean, I think the Broncos...
You're on board with 7-touchdown Peyton Manning?
The Broncos look really good. You know, the defense is going to have to tread water till Von Miller gets back, but that offense, Peyton Manning looks as good as ever. Wes Welker almost won. You know, he got a Super Bowl ring in 2004 season, but almost got one 2007. Almost got another in 2011. Drops the pass that probably would have cinched the Super Bowl. I think he's got the best chance now that he's moved to Denver to bring a Super Bowl honor to Oklahoma. I
like Wes Welker to do it, but I think I might go Kendall Hunter. He's back healthy with the 49ers as their second guy out of the backfield, and I think the Niners have a great chance to win, to get back to the Super Bowl, and this time win it. I like the team they've got. Obviously, you start with Colin Kaepernick. He's a guy that is pretty electric, and I think they've got a really fantastic team. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them back in the Super Bowl and win. And if Kendall Hunter won a Super Bowl ring after injury last year, and he's got a pretty amazing story, where he's come from, where he's gotten to, that'd be a pretty cool story too. Hey, be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.